podcast. Ben Travers and James Frayne back for another week. Frayne, welcome. Plenty to discuss. Not sure if you noticed, but a test match finished yesterday or the day before for those who are watching this on Wednesday. How you going, Frayne?
Mate, I'm good. Yeah, it was another big weekend of sport. What a test series. This is shaping up to be. All eyes turn to Brisbane. Thank Christ we've got the test. It's going ahead.
Absolutely, it is going ahead, as Tim Paine pointed out to Ravi Ashwin late in the day on day 5. So what did you make of the Sydney Test? Australia, 3 wickets on the final day, not good enough. Tim Paine, 3 drop catches. Give me your overview of the performance. Tim Paine, Steve Smith marking his guard and potentially trying to put the Indian batsman off. I don't know whether there's much in it or not, but what were your takings from it all? Plenty of talking points.
Yeah, plenty of talking points. Where to start? First point is just talking about the cricket itself. I thought while there was some pretty poor displays of fielding once again throughout the test match, I think it's plagued both sides, Australia in Melbourne, India at times in this one, and Australia at times. It's just good, exciting cricket. It's 2 evenly matched teams. We're getting final day showdowns where literally I reckon there was no work, as you pointed out, Trav, there was no work being done in Australia from about 1 o'clock onwards, which is summer in a nutshell. The controversies, my quick take on the controversies. I think when you find a team is under a lot of pressure, like the Australians were in day 5 in those last couple of sessions, that's when the sort of real attitudes, emotions, cultures sort of bubble to the surface. And we all remember what happened in Cape Town 2 years ago and how it looked pretty poor reflection on the sport. And I think that maybe all of the goodwill that Cricket Australia and the media and the PR team have tried to do around elite honesty and the test match documentary series, documentary series, we saw that everyone in the team kind of, especially Tim Paine, he's obviously most vocal being the wicketkeeper behind the stumps, but I would imagine that he wasn't the only person. I think the sort of true culture where that really ugly win at all costs, a lot of people saying it's just a bit of banter, it's been around for 100 years, but it just wasn't needed, especially with the stuff with Steve Smith. Anyone who's saying he was just shadow batting, that's the worst excuse. That's almost as bad as saying they picked up some dirt on the ground to rub the ball, like in Cape Town. It's just clutching at straws. I'm glad Tim Paine came out and owned it and said that he got rattled, because he did get rattled. And that's a sign of good, positive leadership, recognising when you let the team down. But, what are your thoughts? There's so much to...
I think I agree with all that. Yeah, I'm a bit over Tim Paine. I think he's done a really good job. But, yeah, I think that statesman sort of tag that he had to him, that's all gone. I think that was a meltdown. And everyone's entitled to a bad day, and he definitely had a bad day behind the stumps. But, late in the day, you've dropped 3 catches yourself and you're worrying about a Brisbane Test to throw a bit of heat. I think whichever broadcaster I was watching at the time pointed out, there was still 10 overs left. They shouldn't be worried about Brisbane. They should be trying to win the Sydney Test. I don't know. It was just, it wasn't a good look. But I look back at Warney, who used to sledge all the time, and I'm a massive Shane Warne fan. So I don't know. It's he didn't get too personal. He called him a dickhead. There's nothing in that. It wasn't a good look, not for the captain, and obviously the stump might have picked it all up. I don't think, everyone's like, 150. He got to 150 dismissals, the quickest or something like that. He's one of the best keepers in the world. I think Alex Perry's... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's easy when Hazelwood, Stark and Cummins are giving you 3 or 4 catches behind the stumps every time. So on the point of our bowlers, I thought Stark bowled like absolute rubbish until his final spell. But Josh Hazelwood must be the best bowler in Test cricket. He is so fucking good. Reverse swing. Yeah, I'd actually favour Hazelwood over Cummins, but... anyways, that's a debate for another time. On day 4 where those blokes got kicked out for hurling abuse? I don't know if you're across any of that. There's been conflicting stories. Obviously, no place for racism anywhere at any time. But by the sounds of things, they've just got into him like you and I would have done at the Gabba 1,000 times. especially to like the Pommies who actually spur it on and want you to do it. So I don't know whether that's a bit of a storm in a teacup. I'm not sure whether there was much in that.
Difficult one. I think without knowing everything, it's hard to comment. Or it's one of those ones where you don't want to find out that there's a piece of information which comes to light afterwards, and you've made a comment either way. So.
Sure. Yeah. Probably handled properly. If they were out of line, then they should throw the book at them and ban them for life. But if not, they're probably owed like a national apology on TV because they got escorted off the cricket ground on national TV. And they had those masks on or had masks on, which might have concealed their identity a little bit. But for the most part, they've been publicly shamed. So if they are entitled to an apology, I think it should be quite a public one. But we'll see how that plays out. The Brisbane Test starts. Is it Friday? Thursday? Friday? Friday. Jasprit Bumrah has just been ruled out. So India are officially down to like 0 fast bowlers on the Brisbane deck, which is going to fuck them royally. So I'm reckoning Australia's a really good bet for the fourth test. You'd have to agree.
I agree entirely. You've got to feel sorry for them. Geez, they've got some injuries. Cole is back in India. I don't think they picked Hardik Pandya because they were worried he was going to break down with injury. So he's sitting at home, but he's actually fit to play. They've got Jadeja's out, Bahari's out, Shami, Sharma.
Ishan Sharma never came, yeah.
Who's the other? Yadav.
Yeah.
Like that's like 8 or 9. Mate, I'd hate to see the team that we would field without Hazelwood, Cummins, Stark, Labuschagne, Smith. Like if you took them out, oh god, it'd be pretty ugly.
Burns.
Yeah.
Burns would be back. That's the $1.44 with our great friends at Play Up for the Aussies to win the Brisbane Test. I don't think there's much rain doing the round, so I reckon that's a pretty good, short but pretty good bet. That's all on Friday. Frayne, you have a interest in the NFL that's going on at the moment. We're nearing to Super Bowl, which I think is sort of first weekend of Feb. Who are you following? What's the latest in all things NFL? I am an NFL. I don't know much about NFL at all.
Well, I don't plan to say that I know all that much more than you, but I've got a keen interest in it. And one thing that is great about this time of year, especially in the Christmas New Year period when you're eating leftover ham for the fourth day and it's early in the morning, the Test cricket hasn't started or the Big Bash hasn't started, and you can chuck the NFL on, and it's the playoffs even better. So I had the first round of playoffs on the weekend. It was wild card round. A fair few games going with the short price favourites. Like this, they play in the system sort of 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 5 versus 4. There were a couple of decent size upsets, and the LA Rams beat the Seahawks. Seahawks usually a pretty clutch sort of team, get themselves out of trouble every sort of second week, but they went down. And then the Cleveland Browns, who haven't won a playoff game since 1994, which is a huge drought. Fancy that. Like imagine your NRL team or your AFL team not winning a playoff game for 26 years. So good news story for them. And also the Buffalo Bills won their first playoff game since 1995. So 2 huge droughts broken. The other headlines, Tom Brady doesn't age, got his team through to the next round of the playoffs. And I think we've got some really exciting games coming up. My predictions for the Super Bowl, I'm tipping a Saints Chiefs. I don't think you'd get too many dollars back from your investment there because they're both sort of red hot teams and short price favourites. A little bit of an upset thinking that the Packers won't get there, but yeah, they're my tips, and that's a little update on the week that was.
The week that was. The 2 other things on American sport, I just saw before that Bill Belichick, the coach of the Patriots, just declined the offer for the Presidential Medal of Freedom from Donald Trump, which I think is unique and rare.
Just playing on the back of all of the Trump issues.
Yeah, he said
I missed that.
Yeah, on the back of the violence at Capitol Hill, obviously. So He's declined that offer, which I think is I don't know for sure, but it'd have to be a once in a lifetime thing for someone to decline that. And the other thing is in the NBA, Kyrie Irving is like, he's gone walkabout. No one knows where he is. Apparently, he's missed 4 straight games for the Brooklyn Nets. The guy's earning like $30 million a year plus endorsements. I'm sure it's more than that. So, and he's just not playing. So, not sure what's going on with those two things, but or with Kyrie in particular, but that's what's happening. Little update on Inside Feed, Frayne Train, where we've spoken about this before, and there's content on our website about the fact that we're getting some capital together. So we're probably just looking for 7 or 8 people, blokes, families, couples, investors, to dip into their pockets and come up with a small amount of money. So if you're one of our millions of subscribers out there that frequent our podcast through YouTube or download from Spotify or our website, we are seeking investment. I know a lot of pages and platforms out there have like a donate page. I just can't be fucked doing that, and I don't think anyone would donate via the website. I think it needs to be more a conversation. So if you're interested, we've got a nice glossy document that we can send to you. The other thing we're looking for, if you're Brisbane based, is a videographer to assist with some content that we'll be producing over the next couple of months. So there's an opportunity there to join the team on sort of a contract basis, which we're excited about. Speaking of Donald Trump, Brano, another thing which caught my eye, it's been a good week for Donald, as I'm sure you're aware. Those Capitol Hill riots or, invasions are just, I could not believe what I was watching. I was actually watching it live on CNN at the time, and it was just out of this world. Like if Hollywood wrote a script and that was the plot line, and that was the story, they'd go, no, that's just ridiculous. That would never happen. And it happened. And now the PGA Tour has just taken the 2022 PGA Championship, which is a major, off Donald Trump's, off one of his courses in New York, Belminster, I think it's called. So not a good week for Trumpy, who does love his golf. So I think we've got about 12 days, 10 days, and he's gone skis. And I don't think that can come soon enough, Frayne Train. Hate to get political on you, but it's just America is in a fucking, it's just a shambles.
It's it's crazy turning on the nightly news there and just seeing all the rubbish that's going on.
Imagine that happening here. Imagine Canberrians just storming Parliament House, while it's in session, while it's sitting. It's just bizarre.
I reckon the closest that anyone's come to storming Parliament House is when the Canberra Raiders with the 6 again rule. I reckon, as opposed, the 6 again in the Roosters grand final, as opposed to anything political. It's that's probably the closest we came.
Absolutely, equally as outraged. I would have thought. Yeah. While we're talking about golf as well, there was a Tiger Woods documentary last night on Foxtel here. I think it's HBO in America, which basically, it was part 1. I think there's only 2 parts. They've released part 1. It was brilliant. Highly recommend it to anyone. If you've got Foxtel Go logins, go and do it. Or if you need to borrow some, just ask a friend. It's fucking really good, and it really paints a picture about how his father was a bit of a little rascal as well. So, but you forget how good Tiger was. In the 2000 US Open at Pebble Beach, Tiger Woods won by 15 shots. I think it was 15. It's just ridiculous. He's played 3-4 less holes than the other competitors, by way of it being, par 3, par 4. It's ridiculous how good he was. That's probably the best golf that's ever been played. And he held all 4 majors at the one time. The guy's a freak. Still is.
I don't have much to add. I've read the book that the series is based on. One of the key takeaways that the author, and I haven't seen the documentary yet, or part 1. One of the key things he mentions was he effectively mentally psyched out a whole sort of generation of golfers. He says himself that when he'd step onto the course, he knew that there was only 1 or 2 blokes who were mentally tough enough to beat him, and the rest would just disintegrate. So
that comes through in the documentary as well. It does. It comes
fascinating. I thought that was so fascinating, to get an understanding of a champion's mindset, that there's 100 and something people competing, and he knows he's only looking at 1 or 2 blokes, and he's just going to break them down. Doesn't look them in the eye, never talks to them when they're playing in the round. just a complete competitor in every sense of the word.
Absolutely, and didn't mind the females as well. So that comes through as well in the documentary. I think part 2 is going to be a lot better. I think part 2 will touch on all the affairs he had, and they sort of did a teaser at the end of the first episode, and it was just some skank that he'd obviously been rooting, and she was like, "What do you want me to talk about?" And then they just cut. So little teaser there. I think it'll come out next Monday in Australia. Frayne, two last things. BBL update. I tipped the Scorchers about a week ago. I think it was a week ago on this podcast to win the BBL. I think they've won 3 in a row. They play again tonight when we're filming this last evening for those watching it on Wednesday. The Heat have been frustrating. Where are you at for BBL?
There's some good finishes like that. The Sixers Brisbane Heat game on Sunday night, I think it was, Sunday night. Like once again, ridiculous finish. Like you couldn't script anything better. It was engaging and everything like that. But I just get the feeling that on their day, any team can beat any other team in the comp. There is no out and out. And I don't know if that's because of COVID bubbles and the fact that they're playing in different venues, but like there's absolutely no front run. You see the table and there is some, there is some staggeredness. It's not all of them sitting on the same amount of points, but like the Renegades, even the Renegades could pull something out of their arse. And I think Sydney Thunder at top of the table would not surprise anyone if Finch teed off and hit a 80 off 30 or 40, like anyone on their day. So it's wide open. That makes it exciting. But like we discussed last week, I think there's still another 3 and a bit weeks left. So it definitely might. Yeah.
Like about now would be a good time to start the finals, I reckon. But all teams have played about 10 games. Now the next 2 or 3 weeks is just like fuck off. That said, you can still have a bet on it, and the Scorchers hopefully win tonight. Because they're rolling. I'm telling you, they are fucking on fire. Other thing for the weekend is Magic Millions races at the Gold Coast. Bit of a prelude to that last Saturday. They ran at the Gold Coast. But we will do a full preview of that on the Inside Feed Punters Club Thursday evening, which will be published on Friday. Really important week, Frayne. I am going to be sharpening my pencil and doing form for the ages. I'm really keen. I love Magic Millions Day. It's such a good fucking day.
Great day.
Great day.
I found it a hard day. I find a lot of them hard days, but I found this one particularly hard in the past.
Yeah, well, I've got some confidence. It went all right on the weekend, but got some confidence. Looking forward to it. May have a special guest on the podcast on Thursday in the Punters Club, which will keep all those thousands and millions of listeners posted on. Other than that, Frayne Train, I will see you on the Feed podcast next week, and we will get stuck into some form for all the horse racing, gambling degenerates before the weekend, and look forward to the Magic Millions card.
Thanks, Trav.
Look forward to it. Thanks, mate.